All right. Well, welcome, my friends, back to another episode of Land Stories Live. I am your host, Dave Deniston of Generation Family Properties, LLC, where our goal is to help hundreds of people like you own land. And most of all, we want to be able to tell your land story. Well, today, you'll notice behind me, I don't have any sort of fancy background. There's no featured property. Instead, we have a special guest who is going to help us answer this question that a lot of people ask us. How do we buy our properties, and how do we decide what properties we want to have? Please help me welcome one of our intake managers, Chrissy Rouster, to the show. Welcome, Chrissy.
Thank you.
I'd say you're a long-time listener, first-time caller, but you're probably a first-time listener, first-time caller.
A little bit of both.
How's it going?
It's good. How about you?
Good. We just have to hope the kids stay asleep. If we end up hearing kids coming in the background, everyone will know what's going on. Just a forewarning, everybody. So Chrissy, you have been awesome. It's been a joy to have you on the team. A lot of people don't get to see you. They have seen Christy a lot. They had seen Mia before. But you are a very important member of the team. So would love to hear more about you. What's your story? Where are you from?
Yeah, Chrissy, not to be confused with Christy, right?
Right. It happens to me. I end up switching it up sometimes on you guys.
Yeah.
It's so confusing.
So my story, I, as you mentioned, have two little ones. They are napping right now, hopefully for a while. I have an almost 4-year-old and a 2.5-year-old. So just kind of doing all of this fun stuff in between being mom, which, whenever I can.
Right.
But we live just outside of Atlanta. We just moved here at the beginning of this year. I'm originally from Michigan, so you'll probably hear more of my Midwestern accent than anything. But yeah, that's the short and long of it for now.
You know, the whole accent thing is so funny because I was just in Dallas with my oldest daughter because we had to run down there for Thanksgiving to help out my folks. And we were talking about accents on the way down. And I'm from California, of course. And she was saying, you don't really have much of a California accent. And I'm like, oh, I must have a Minnesota accent now after all these years. What do you think? Do I have a California accent or a Minnesota accent, or am I just like a weird mix?
Sorry if I missed anything. My internet is acting up a lot. So if I, kind of stare at you blankly for a minute, that's fine.
No
your accent, though, I don't really hear much of anything. So I think you have a very neutral accent. I definitely don't hear the Minnesota.
Good. Those long O's. Oh.
Yes,
that's
Minnesota.
Oh, gosh. My wife is doing it now, though, which is funny because she's from Seattle. So I don't know. So tell us a little bit.
Oh, that's so funny.
Tell everyone.
To pick up on accents, so
That is hilarious. Well, why don't we talk a little bit about how we met and the how you started just kind of leaping in head first into this job and kind of what you do for the company.
Okay. Yeah. So I was initially looking for something that I could do from home, and that's where I found you, which is awesome that we can do this from completely different locations, which is really nice.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, when you brought up kind of helping out with the land stuff, let's go for it, Dave. Let's see what happens. So it's been fun, though. It's definitely, I have a background in mortgage servicing. So it was kind of comforting to get back into seeing deeds and things like that. So it was kind of a nice transition for me. And then, just being able to do all the behind the scenes reporting and things like that. Like, we've talked about my love of Excel and all that it can do. So those pieces really kind of drew me in and gave me a little bit of comfort there. But yeah, so it's been fun. It's been a couple of months now that I've been helping out with the intake of the properties. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, we've kind of specialized you in a couple of different areas. So when someone is looking to sell a property to us, so we're buying properties, I think we have you in Colorado and Oregon for the most part, right? Those are the two states you've been specializing in.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about how do we get properties? How does that work? Like we have all these properties that often people are concerned about. Is this a scam? This is one of their biggest concerns when they buy a property from us. Well, of course, we have to buy the property first, right? So how does that work? How do we go about that process?
Yeah, and I'm definitely all for being leery. You never know. So it's good. I like when people ask those questions, and then we can talk to them and say, we are real people and you can see us right here, right now.
Yes.
So I'm definitely, all for that. So basically we get these massive lists from different counties of land, just all of the land. And we go through and we scrub those lists and we kind of pare it down into what we're looking for. We have some great programs that help us to do this, get these mailings out. So then we put everything kind of into this little bucket that churns out these wonderful little letters that you get from us. And it'll pinpoint, who you are as the property owner and what your details of your property, maybe the acreage, those are all the things that we look for. And then we give you an offer of, hey, if you want to stop paying the taxes on this property that you might not be using, let us take that off your hands. So I like, my husband and I actually own a piece of land in Michigan that I'm dying for someone to send me a letter to just take it off our hands. But yeah, that's kind of how we get the properties, and we kind of look, and then when somebody does reach out to us and they say, hey, I got your letter, let's talk. And then we can start looking a little bit closer into the property and getting a little bit more information on it.
So how many letters do you think for like the states you're responsible for are we sending out a day, would you say?
I believe, I know we're sending a lot more in Oregon. So we're about 35 letters a day in Oregon right now, Monday or Sunday through Saturday, every single day. And we were about the same in Colorado. We've pared that back to just a couple a day right now. So, but different counties. So overall, a handful a day in Colorado, and definitely really seeking out that land in Oregon.
So probably, let's just call it 50 letters a day. So everyone who's listening, we're sending up probably 1,500 letters a day to a month to people to try and buy properties. And Chrissy, how many would you say we actually buy? By the time, obviously not everyone responds back to us. A lot of people never respond back to us,
right.
But like, how many do you think we actually end up buying out of 1,500 a month that we're sending out?
Let's just in the couple of months since I've been doing this, I've probably full circle processed through maybe a couple dozen. And that was a couple big parcels, or big, groups of parcels that we did process all together. So that's within a couple of months. So it's definitely a numbers game.
Yeah, absolutely. And obviously we're spending a lot of money to get there because those letters ain't free.
Yes.
So we spend a lot of money to do that. Now, some of the other ways that you haven't had direct access to yet that we do every so often is I might go to like a tax auction and I might buy properties there, or I might buy tax liens and buy properties there, or I might go to another land investor and buy properties from another land investor. So there's lots and lots of different ways that we buy property, but by sending letters is the primary one of all. So someone responds, and now we're checking out the property. What happens, Chrissy, in that process? Walk people through what happens when, okay, we this person's responded, they might want to sell to us, but do we want to buy it, right? Because maybe we don't want to buy the property. Like, walk us through what happens.
Right, and that happens.
Yep.
That happens.
Yep.
So the very first thing that we like to do is make contact with that person. So you would get a phone call from me. So, either or an email, if you wanted to talk through email. So we just try to reach out to that landowner and just ask a lot of questions. How did you come to own this land? Have you been there before? Have you been there recently? Especially the land that we've been looking at in Colorado. We had those wildfires a couple of years ago. So I really just like to ask a lot of questions. And what can you tell me about the property? I will typically do a little preliminary looking ahead of time just to look at the status of the taxes, if there's an HOA, things like that. So I know that I really want to ask those questions. But I really leave it up to the the landowner, what do you want to tell me about it? They want to sell this property. So they're going to tell me the things that they think, oh, it's really level. There's lots of trees. We were going to build on it. All of those things that we sometimes can't tell just from looking at tax records or property owner searches and things like that. So that's kind of step one. And then we take that a step further and we do all of the research. So we're looking at pictures above, the aerial view from Google Maps, or we're sending a photographer, feet on the ground, getting out there, looking at the property. We're looking at the tax status. Is everything paid up to date? Is there an HOA or a landowners association associated with that property? Are there any back dues on that? Can we get water, sewer? Can we get electricity? Can we build on it? Is it even possible? So those are, among other things, just kind of the really important things that we want to make sure that we know before we move forward and say, hey, yeah, we do actually want to buy this property.
Right. No, those are all really good things that we could probably spend an hour just talking about some of those aspects. I'd love to know from you, this being the first time you've dealt specifically like in land, as you've been doing your research, what's been something that really surprised you that you were like, oh man, I had no idea this was a thing as you've gotten into this?
Definitely the land out west is like its own animal. So knowing that, not so much in the states that I've been handling, but in the other ones, that you may have to actually haul your water into your lot. Like that just blew my mind that was a thing. And like some people are okay with that. Yeah. And just, I think the biggest thing for me was the level of detail that we really do look into these properties, because you want to make sure it's a good investment and you want to make sure that the property owner, as well as you, the new potential owner, are both happy. So it was really surprising to me, just like I said, that level of detail of like, how far away is the nearest power line? Can we get electricity? And like little things like that, we really do look into to make sure that it's a good thing to go forward with it. So it's definitely a little eye-opening.
Yeah. Well, I think what I would say, the most surprising thing that I guess hit me is the fact that as the owner, I personally don't actually visit the vast majority of these properties, right?
Mm-hmm.
But we hire people that can go and do it for us. So that whole concept, normally you own a house, right? You know the house, you've been in the house, like that as someone that buys and sells land across multiple states was something that I never would have thought coming into this business would be possible or a thing that people do. It's like, you've never been there? Nope.
Right. No big deal. Never been there. But you do really get a good feel for like, we've bought a lot of properties in Forbes Park. So you're really familiar with Forbes Park. So like in just these areas, the more that we start to talk to either the landowners or the people in the county offices that are so extremely helpful, we really get a feel for them. So maybe that kind of eases that anxiety of, I've never been there and I'm going to buy this and hope that somebody else wants it. You get a really good feel for what that area is like and what you're actually buying, which is nice.
Well, plus I think when you have enough photographers going out there and they talk to you about the property and you get to see videos of it, that's helped me personally, feel a lot more comfortable in getting reports from people, as well as eventually, I've seen a lot of these areas myself. Maybe I haven't been to the property, but I've been to the area and I kind of know what it's like. So I actually went up to Forbes Park for the first time myself a month ago, exploring around and seeing what it actually was like in person. So that is one of my goals, that I actually do want to get out to some of these areas just to see it for myself personally. But in the meantime, I found everything that photographers have said to be super accurate. And I've never had an issue with people that we hire to check out properties giving us false information. So that's all been to the good. Chris, you still here with us? Uh-oh. Looks like we have an internet connectivity issue. Chrissy? All right. Well, I'm going to keep on talking. We'll wait to get Chrissy back with us here. Oh, there she is. All right. Oh, no worries.
You're completely shut down. Oh, goodness.
You're all good. I was trying to figure out what I was about to say. So we'll just keep on going and hopefully we won't disconnect here. I would love to know from you, in your experience now, there's a lot of people that say, I hate homeowners associations. I don't want to touch them. I don't want someone telling me what I can and can't do with my land. Versus other people that seem to like them. And I'd like to know from your experience, what do you see as the differences? Because you've dealt with HOA and non-HOA properties. What are you seeing, and what's your perspective on that?
Yeah, I can kind of see both sides. We actually live in an HOA right now, and it was something that my husband and I said we would never buy a house in an HOA. So never say never. But I think you get a lot of really good features when you live in an HOA, especially I think when you're building. So yes, you may want to consider what restrictions, do they want your house to be a certain color, things like that. But you're also getting a lot of benefits. You're getting roads that are maintained. You're getting potential community access, whether it's, land that you can hunt on out west, or a pool if you're in a neighborhood. There's a lot of great things. So yeah, you do have don't park 14 recreational vehicles on your land, maybe in an HOA. But I can also see a lot of good, especially if this land is maybe not your primary property. Maybe you want something that someone's there, they can keep an eye on it, they can maintain those roads and keep that access going, versus just the rules side of an HOA. I think the HOAs that we've worked with so far have been extremely helpful, and they kind of know, we have this recreational land and this is what people are here for. And I think there's a lot of good that can come from it, not just the.
Well, I think I've lost Chrissy here for a second, but I'll go ahead and fill in while we're waiting for her to reconnect. I think she's shaking her head. She's back. I think like you said, I think the HOAs tend to have more infrastructure. And initially, when I started in this business, I purposely focused it on non-HOA properties. And the reason was because there are less restrictions. However, what I heard from people over and over again is, I want to have power, I want to have water, and I want to have, sewer. And from my experience so far, at least in terms of raw vacant land, most of those properties tend to be in an HOA, just because the association has set up the infrastructure. Now, you might have some land that has electricity. That's not unusual, but it's more rare for non-HOA type properties. So you can find those, and we do have some of those, but they are harder to find. But they're not going to have water and sewer, is my experience, at least so far. I'm sure there's exceptions to that rule. But I think for someone that really wants to have the infrastructure, an HOA is a great way to go if that's important to you. There's some people that are they're great at building. They can figure out the water, with a cistern, or drilling for a well, or they'll go and they can put septic in themselves, and they have no issue kind of figuring those kinds of things out. Or they just want to have recreational property. I think non-HOA properties are perfect for those kinds of people. So it looks like you're pretty stable now. So I'm just talking here to make sure you're still with us, Chrissy. I'm curious to know from you, with the areas you've been dealing with, if you were to buy land out of all of the counties you've dealt with, which county, which area would you most be likely to buy land in? Oh, and she's frozen again. Bummer. Chrissy, I think I hear you. All right. Well, while we're waiting for Chrissy. All right, Chrissy, did you hear my question at all?
I heard everything up to when I thought you were going to ask a question.
Oh, bummer. All right. So I was
like, no, it's slowing down. Don't do this.
I think we'll have to wrap this up.
It just keeps freezing and then kicking me out and popping back in.
I know you're having some bad wind out there. So this is live, people. This is not some rehearsed thing. These technical difficulties do happen. So, Chrissy, if you were to buy land in the areas you've been looking at and studying, where would you buy land and why? Oh, no. She's frozen again. All right. So, Chrissy, if you can hear me, why don't we have you stop your video and we'll end up just going forward. So anyhow, where would you buy land? I'm going to answer the question myself while we're waiting for Chrissy to connect back with us. Looks like she dropped out here for a moment. I would tell you guys, part of it depends upon price. I think I personally, if I was to buy something, it would probably be because I want to build a small place. And my favorite area would probably be Tiburon out in New Mexico, because you do have the water and power on the vast majority of the lots we have out there. So for me, that would probably be what we would be looking to do as a family. And that area, you're high up in the mountains. It's not your typical kind of desert area like you can get in some place. There's lots of trees. You can get snow out there for the holidays and celebrate a white Christmas. And man, I wish Chrissy would be able to connect back. I'm just trying to fill in while she comes back with us. I think my second favorite place that Chrissy had mentioned was Forbes Park. So Forbes Park out in Colorado, which, by the way, speaking of HOA versus non-HOA, Tiburon is not an HOA, but they do have some of that infrastructure. So it's one of those rare exceptions where you can have some utilities available, and there's not actually an HOA there. There is a road association, but not an HOA. The second favorite place is in Forbes Park in Colorado. And what I love about that area is, even though there was a fire that went through there, there's so much wildlife. It's a gated community. And so it's kind of set away. Chrissy, let's plan on, Chrissy is back with us. Let's plan on you just not using your video, and okay, maybe that might help your pausing, hopefully. Yeah. So where I was just talking through the favorite places that I would buy land while we're waiting for you to get back on. So where would you buy land with your tastes, and why, out of the places that you have been working and researching?
Yeah, I think I'm really enjoying these new Oregon properties we're looking at. I love both the properties in Colorado and the properties that we've seen now in Deschutes County. Their views and just what you can get in this land is amazing to me. So just that, like, wide open mountain views, sometimes you get a body of water near you. That is absolutely what I would love. You know, money not an object. I'd be going for something like that you can just really enjoy the land around you.
Which I think it actually brings us to something interesting that we literally just found out today on a Oregon property in Deschutes County that we were looking at. This property is, I don't think it's even 100 feet away from the river. Is it? A couple hundred feet? It's really close, sure. Really close to the river. Unfortunately, it seems to be mostly zoned wetland with a tiny little area in it that's zoned residential. I don't even know how big that is. It looks tiny.
Yeah, very minuscule.
So that's one that we're going to end up passing on, Chrissy, just so you know, because we want people to be able to build on the property. Right. Any thoughts on some of that zoning stuff that pops up on some of these deals, like that one, which we were hoping, because it was part of a subdivision, we thought it would be able to be buildable, I guess it is, but only a very small fraction of less than an acre. So
yeah, I can see why they would want the distinction on pretty large parcels of land to say, yeah, you can build over here and it's big enough, to be usable. But I would like to see, maybe like a ranking system where this is mostly wetland. Like, it's not, a super, because when we first look at it, the very first, on just the main page, it says rural residential for that one. And it wasn't until I did a little bit more digging that I found that it was wetland and it's in a flood zone and all of the other things. So it was a little bit sneaky for sure to have multiple zonings. I didn't know that was common.
When I was not happy because it's so close to the river. I was like, oh man, it looked like from the FEMA map that it wasn't going to be in a flood zone.
Right.
But I guess by the county it is. So these are the things we find out and that you dig into.
Yeah, that was a pretty lot too. It's disappointing.
Well, Chrissy, for the sake of the internet breaking on us.
My goodness.
I would love to just kind of gather from you any final thoughts on what it's like to do your job and any wisdom you can pass on to people as they look to buy lots from us.
Yeah, I think definitely ask questions, ask a lot of questions, because I know that we certainly do. When we purchase a parcel of land, we want to make sure that we can answer any question that a potential new buyer might have. So when you are looking to buy land, whether it's from us or anywhere, definitely do some digging, to ask a lot of questions. Is it in a wetland? For example. So definitely don't be afraid to ask a lot of questions and find out, if the person you're buying from isn't us and they don't know, you might want to go with somebody that really knows those pieces of property inside and out.
And not to say that we don't make mistakes from time to time. We certainly do. We are not immune from that. We are human, but we certainly want to make sure to make things right if we do make a mistake. So that's why we have our 90-day guarantee. So you could swap to another property, or we'll give you your money back if we ended up doing something that especially didn't turn out to be true, or we found out something later. Maybe you even find something out about the property we didn't know. We certainly don't claim to know it all, but we try and do the best that we can. Well, Chrissy, thank you so much for being with us. And as I mentioned, you are our intake manager who helps to vet properties for us. So if anyone ever wanted to sell a property to us, especially one that might be in Colorado or Oregon, what's the best phone number that they can get a hold of you on?
Yeah, you can give us a call at area code 720-409-3662.
All right, there you go, my friends. That wraps up the episode for today. Tune in every Monday, at least normally every Monday at 11:30 a.m. Central. We ran a little bit late today, but we did get it in on a Monday. If you have a question about land, or if you have a bad dad joke, I would love to share it. Send it to me, contact@genfamproperties.com, or submit them through Facebook, or at the very least, I can kind of torture my oldest daughter with bad dad jokes. It's great. Anyhow, thank you so much for tuning into Land Stories with me, Dave Deniston, and my special guest, Chrissy Rouster. Make sure to check out all of our properties at www.genfamproperties.com. So www.genfamproperties.com. And it would be our honor to speak with you. Thank you so much for tuning in. We appreciate you. We'll talk to you later. Take care.